This week on your Old School RuneScape update, Game Jam 5's contenders are discussed and promoted, from Bingo and Bank Loadouts to POH customizations and Puffins. We then share our favorites. The gear and skill upgrades have also accumulated, and it's time to go Grandmaster with Song of the Elves. This is the Old School RuneScape update, episode 35, recorded Saturday, July 6th, 2024. Force Grandeur. Hello everybody and welcome to another episode of the Old School RuneScape update. Sirion and myself are here, as we are each and every week, getting back into the very traditional, I'll say, episodes of OSRS update. It's a big one this week. Of course, and you know, we're saying big one not only because we have Game Jam to talk about, but we have one of the biggest questing updates that we have ever done here on OSRS update. You have completed Song of the Elves. I still have to do the last boss fight, but Song of the Elves is going to be done by the time you guys are hearing this, and we have everything leading up to that, the preparations for Well-Gothic Sleeps next week, and of course the Game Jam projects to go through. So let's just dive in. I don't think there's much else we have to say in terms of getting the ball rolling here, is there?
Nope.
No.
Let's do it.
Update.show/OS if you want to follow along in the show notes. So we got this mammoth post here of the Game Jam updates that they were working on in May, and we talked about some of these before. So the first one on the list, and I think this one is probably the biggest one that the folks in the clan community, and then, you know, just communities in general, PVM communities, Clue communities, are looking forward to, is maybe the bingo system, because, you know, just being able to set, you know, a target of looking for a certain item or a certain amount of XP as a bingo item, and having this all supported in game, I think that's a pretty darn good thing.
Yeah, we talked about this before. I love the idea of it. I wanted to do, I've wanted to do a bingo for a clan before, and having that officially supported, I can, and like we do bingos in our clan actually.
Yeah, we've had
Clue bingos and
Clue
PVM
bingo,
drops.
Pride bingo.
Exactly.
PVM bingo.
Exactly.
Yeah. So, I think the thing that I'm most interested in this is the skill XP, because we used to run these skill competitions too. So if this comes in, we can say, you know, the first one to reach these skill milestones in this selection of skills for this month, you win a prize. You know, that's the thing I'm most looking forward to with this mode, if this comes into game. And I want to underscore that Game Jam project does not mean it's going to come into game right away. So if you like this, talk about it in the community, and that has a higher chance of elevating it in the eyes of the OSRS producers for that. Next up on the list, we have POH customization. I know you initially jumped up and down about this one.
I love it. I mean, just seeing the screenshots here again, I'm like, yes.
Yeah.
Absolutely yes.
You're going to want that Prif one after today.
Oh, yeah. Well, yes, but also the Volamore one's looking pretty juicy. I don't know, and I still like the Hosidius one that you can unlock. Give me all of them. Give me the ability to choose per room, please. Oh, that's probably impossible, but
I mean, you
I
could
love
just have
these.
it. Yeah, I mean, I could see that being a thing, but probably not something they would want to enable. And also, let's not forget all of the different, you know, customizable items that they're.
There's even more here than I've seen before. Like PVM shelf, skill shelf, adventure. Oh, look at the adventure shelf. It has like the dragon shield.
Isn't it funny? Isn't it funny that this is here, and we were just talking about yesterday on one of the RS3 shows about things that could be added to a POH?
Yes. I love this. I think this is great. I want this.
Yeah, and you know the fun bit about this one is it just starts as concept imagery, and then it just, you know, kind of took on a life of its own. So there's that. But the next one, this is another one huge on my list, and this is bank loadouts, which they say provide a convenient way to change your equipment and inventory with one click and reduce the friction involved in gearing up. And, like we have the bank tag thing, right?
Mm-hmm.
But I've never really been able to fully settle into that myself. So I'd like to have this.
What is your thought? Because they explain the trade-off here, right? Like, what is your thought on the fact that they're going to make this not instant, so that there's still value in, quickly doing this yourself, and maybe they want to even have like a cooldown, so after, combat, so you can't, easily switch out of combat.
No, I think
your
that's
thought of that.
I think that's okay because I know there in the other game there's some skill setups and whatnot that you alternate back and forth really quickly if you're doing things at the utmost efficiency. So I think adding in a brief cooling down period on that is fine. Whereas if you're I'm just going to go do a Slayer task and then I'm going to transition into a farm run, and that farm run takes the certain single digit number of minutes that it takes to do, I think that cooling off period is fine in between those for that.
Yeah.
And it also, I think, leans into what people know and expect for old school, in that, everything's just not going to be handed to you on a silver platter, despite people maybe wanting that.
Do you think this is a better approach than what RS3 has done, or
it's a different game. It makes sense for old school, whereas what RS3 does works for RS3.
Fair enough. Yeah. Fair enough. I like it. The fact that they're thinking about this, to me, indicates that they get it.
Yeah,
or they get a lot. Not everything, probably, but
yeah. And see, I think that's the number one thing an old school update needs to be successful, is that it needs to understand the community, and conversely, the players need to understand the rationale behind it. And if those two things go, even if it's not something that I'm going to get excited about, I can see the merit of having it in game. Like, for example, I voted yes on the spider boss this week on that poll, even though I'm not going to be killing that thing for a long, long time. Slayer level 92.
No, I thought you were going to rush 92 Slayer because of that.
No, I'd rather get untrimmed agility. Yeah. Or go back and play Quake 3, for heaven's sakes. Like, I literally tell people, if better things never came along, I'd still be playing Quake 3 and Modern Warfare, Call of Duty Modern Warfare, Call of Duty 4. Even though, there are better things out there in that regard. Anyways, yeah, I still, if I look over at Steam, I still have Counter-Strike Source installed, and up until my last hard drive, I still had CS 1.6 installed.
Wow.
Anyways, the Adventurer Path system. Yes, please. If there's one thing that early RuneScape has taught us, in particular the advent of mobile, it's that the early game needs more wayfinding, I think. And, you can make an argument that maybe that's not too old school like, but it doesn't have the other things that's going to, draw people into the game. So you kind of have to have the guardrails there for that. And I remember when you and I were starting, I followed that path and you didn't, and you were shocked that I found those lamps for, skilling in combat in relation to that. So,
yeah.
One-way agility shortcuts.
Makes sense that they're highlighted differently.
Yeah, I think so. And it's just a simple thing that's for the mini map and the world map. So it's very very, very simple to do on that. I'd wager. Maybe not. I don't know the code. NPC reset behavior. So once an NPC has been attacked by another player's irons can't attack it or receive loot from it. However, there are times where the player was cannoning it and long gone. So what they want to do with this is make it so that NPCs who are no longer in combat will have their HP reset, allowing Iron players to engage without issues.
This is a problem I've really ran into on my Iron Man. Just killing a random imp, and you can't because somebody has taken a bite out of its hit points, or exactly. You go to like a Slayer spot, and all of the monsters have been tagged by cannon, and you can't really get anything. So this is a very welcome change. This is a
Yeah,
very welcome
totally.
change.
Totally. The next one is one that I could talk about forever on this, and improvements to chat, they say. So when you pop in the slashes in the chat box, it will now say, if this goes through, friends chat, clan chat, guest, and what have you.
Yeah,
I
makes sense.
wanna use this to say that despite all the charm that exists in the old school look and feel with the font, if anybody out there is listening, community, tell me what you think about this. Please, let's move to a true type based font system like RS3 did. I don't know about you, but the old school font.
Doesn't the official client do something like that?
I don't
Have you
know.
seen what have you looked at what the status of fonts is in the new, like,
No,
the
I
official
haven't. I
client?
don't actually load the official client up that often.
Okay. I mean, I could check on mobile, but that's different anyway.
Yeah. Yeah. And I realize that's different from this Game Jam project, but since we're talking about chat and fonts, I would like something to be done on that, because that's my number one pain point. And maybe it's because I'm using and please don't rake me over the coals for this. When my main old school monitor, if I'm playing on my gaming PC, is a 12-year-old 1080p display.
Hmm.
Yeah. So, in any case, next up, a bestiary. They say Monster Examine is pretty neat, but once the information is up on the wiki, it becomes obsolete. So,
Yeah.
there's a new collection system, the bestiary. When you kill a monster for the first time, it will add basic information, and using Monster Examine on it will reveal further information. So basically, I guess this is just going to be bringing that to an in-game UI then, that you can repeatedly
I think this makes
go
sense.
for.
I think there was a big discussion when the elemental weaknesses came out that, it was weird that it was so annoying to find, right? And that they just spread like a bunch of spreadsheets that was really and I just got moves on the wiki and that's it, right? So I'm in favor of this. I don't know if I like the unlock thing, but um
Yeah, that's fair.
we'll see.
Small islands. Oh boy, sailing is on the brain. Small islands concepts, and what they want to do with this is they want to populate the sailing area, with small incidental bits of content, just like the mainland. So the first point of interest is the deep sea fishing platform, and with this, it'll be a fishing spot with manta ray, sea turtles, halibut, and sunfish, plus the chance to collect prawn balls. So I guess this is an alternate take on RS3's deep sea fishing, isn't it?
Yeah, I think so, and I like it. Like, I think, to make a skill like sailing feel rich. What?
Yeah.
Like, no, well, no, but like to make it feel whole and rich, I think the best thing to do is to have lots of little pieces of content, right? Because like when it comes in, if you're not careful, it's gonna feel a little bit sterile, right? Because it hasn't had the time to get all of those
Yeah.
organic updates over time.
Yeah.
Like quests adding a little thing and then a reward here and an update there.
I'm sorry.
So I like that they're sort of tackling this ahead of time, and trying to add these things. So yeah, no, I like it.
I'm resisting the urge to rehash my dislike for sailing. That's all.
Look, I'm. It's a thing. Let's take it for what it is. Like, if it is going to be a thing, let's make sure it's the very best it can be.
Yes, and I think all the JMods want that too. Obviously.
Yeah, and I think you and I agree that, the problem we have with sailing is not that we don't trust that it can't become like that they won't do the very best that they can, right? Like I think I trust the Jagex team to make like within the boundaries of the skill to build the best possible version of this skill.
Yeah. Okay. The reward interface, the collection interface. You know how much people love getting items and whatnot on RS and having different tiers of it.
I sort of like the update they came up with here. Like I like the new.
It's completionism without being a comp cape, right?
Yes, and I like the new UI better than the old one. I mean, they're gonna keep the old one available, and I think that's good. Maybe, but the new one, I don't know. It's. I like it. I don't know what more that needs to be said. I like it.
No, yeah, I mean, and I just know how big collection logs are in game, and I feel like this is going to be one of the ones that's definitely going to highlight itself, including with the ability to move it around and the high scores that are available for it too, because everybody loves competing with that. Bank deposit box revamped? Okay.
Finally.
I've never had many issues with this. Tell me what the issues are.
I don't know. Like the interface is awkward, right? Because it has like a different grid size than your normal inventory.
Okay.
So this is nice. Like imagine this, right? Like imagine you have your callback in a model load mine, the ability to lock it and to be able to just use the deposit box and basically deposit everything but your callback and your hammer and whatever else you have in your inventory during model load mines will actually remain there. Like I think I don't know if this is the best solution, right? Like the whole locked things, it feels a little bit complicated, and I think this needs refinement.
Right, and you say complicated, and I'm looking at the image of the cabbages right now.
Yeah, I mean, okay, that's a doctored image that shows you like multiple things overlaid, of course, but.
Yeah. But I get what you're saying. I get what you're saying. So.
I think it needs a rework. I think it also needs a little bit more refinement than this. So I think it's a step in the right direction.
Yeah, and I mean, it's all about prototypes, and there's a survey at the end of this post, too. I don't know if it's still going to be open by the time you folks are hearing this, but you can go and, fill that out on there. Next up, unrestricted builds, and with this... so they want to, in effect, lean into what people have decided to do for all the odd accounts over the last 10 years or so. So they said they've started to decide about whether or not you want the quest XP rewards by giving it in the form of lamps. However, older quests still don't include this functionality. With this, potentially looking at changing this so that everybody will be able to, fully embrace this. And this is something I think RS3 did over a number of years too, and I think it's just natural to give it in lamps for people who might not want that XP for that. We also have with this a minor version of the quest requirement cleanup going on here. So they say Dragon Slayer 2 for some reason requires 50 HP to use the locator orb. So if they remove that arbitrary requirement, players could attempt Vorkath and even Galvik at 10 HP. So that's something that's going to be enabled.
Yeah, no, look, I like it. I all of these, I mean, I think it's a good idea to do this. Why not?
Yeah.
It's mostly the question, like, maybe people can ask, like, why? I think the right question to ask is why not?
Yeah, that's fair. That's fair. Path and Cloudfree is losing the 47 ranged and 60 strength requirement on there for that.
Yep.
And, the 30,000 strength lamp on there. If you have a lower strength, that becomes a tremendous reward. King's Ransom requires you to equip black armor, but that's 10 defense, so they're wondering why is this 65? So they're going to be shifting that around and put the 65 defense requirement on the Lamp XP reward.
Makes sense.
So altering the skills requirements, they say, for these quests could allow players to obtain a quest cape at just level 43 combat and 10
I'd
HP.
love to see somebody try. I'm not going to be the person doing it, but that sounds like someone on YouTube is going to try
Hey,
this.
I have a player save right now that's right before the boss in Song of the Elves. Do you want me to transfer that over to the beta and set my HP to 10?
No, don't do it. Don't do it. The changes I'm most excited about in this list are the ones you haven't mentioned yet.
Okay, Chivalry?
It's Chivalry, yes. I was so gutted when they didn't pass the poll to add it to the Chaos Temple update, and moving Chivalry to Holy Grail. I like it.
Yeah, that makes sense. I think that makes sense.
That being said, Chivalry right now, oh my goodness, like. I did it on my Iron Man for the prayer reward because the rewards are so bloody good, and you can do it at fairly low level because you can flinch the Black Knight Titan, which is really the only combat you need to do. Okay. And then and now you basically are able to get Chivalry this early on. It's like, what? But like, I like the changes they proposed to Chivalry as well, where they removed the defense thing, and basically it gets you a better switch with Mystic Might and Eagle Eye.
Yeah, that's the big
Love
one.
it.
That's the big one, definitely.
I think they got this right. I might like this even better than the Chaos Temple changes.
All right, fair enough. Yeah, and I mean, from this you can tell it's something they want to put through because they're finding a different way to do it this time through Game Jam. Next up, content variety, and this one set the social media and Reddit on flames, despite the fact that now they're saying there could be a 1 defense Perilous Moon's armor. Let me just read this here first. They say our plan is to generate a new rare drop from the lunar chest. This drop could be combined with a broken piece of armor to create a new variant of Perilous Moon's armors with reduced defensive stats. So with reducing the defensive stats, they'd remove the defense requirement, adding variety for 1, 20, or 45 defense builds. No. It was designed, I feel, in the way that it was laid out in the whole Varlamore blog post and the brief on Perilous Moons to sit where the level currently is. That's my opinion on that. And it just feels like this is, maybe the PvP community wants this, but doesn't need to? Or is this another why not situation?
I think this is different than the other why not. Largely because, like you said, I think equipment requirements, first of all, they are a more fundamental part of that gameplay design, and there's actually a reason they have them. And the whole thing where they're like being able to reduce down the defense requirement with, what was it, like corrupted or broken armor piece that you can put, like, to me it feels unnecessarily convoluted.
Yeah.
Right? The whole system feels like it adds complexity to account for a small niche. And I don't think it's bad to account for a small niche, but it shouldn't impact existing gameplay. And I feel this does that a little bit too much.
Yeah, they say...
I like the idea behind it. Like, I like that they're like, oh, this will continuously add value to the drops of the Lunar chest. And I'm like, yeah, that's all good, because I still want to go back there and earn the big bucks when I finally have time. I don't know. This just feels weird.
Yeah, and it also turns into a PvP reward, too, because on PvP death, the broken piece is removed and the rare drop is dropped for the PKer.
Yeah.
So,
Yeah.
we also got a PvP specific prayer book.
I don't like that either. Like it's the same thing. It feels look, if this is a thing they want to do, then maybe if this is part of Bounty Hunter, fine, right? Like give everybody but then at the same time, if you want this to be a thing, then just, put everything on the same stats in Bounty Hunter and give them access to the same things. So
Yeah. I wonder if they added a PvP specific prayer book, if it would reduce the friction to adding other new prayers or other new prayer books for everybody else.
yeah,
Maybe that's the angle on this.
Mm-hmm.
Bank filters? This is like built-in bank tags, but taken to another level, kind of.
Yeah, I like it. Let's do it.
Yeah, that's good.
Let's do it.
Puffins.
I read this. I was like, "What the f?"
Yeah,
I've
never seen these.
You've never seen these? Oh, they're cute. I've seen them before.
Okay.
They're very cute. Look, it basically talks about like 2 new quests, and we like our quests. We like our quests,
Just
right?
like if the Puffin quest is like the frog quest, we'll take that.
Yeah, I mean, this seems to be like it moves a little bit further on this is basically sort of parallel and merges with the Penguin storyline, which we haven't actually done yet in Old School ourselves.
No. It's a question of where we go next, I think.
I'm not a massive fan of where they went in RS3. The kind of madness that this describes is exactly where I want the Penguin quest to go.
Yeah,
so,
to be fair,
yeah,
RS3 promoted something at a Rune Fest once, only half serious, called Penguins in Space, the musical, with BitsBytes Durzeg. I thought it was.
That was a game jam. It was a game jam
project.
Oh,
really? I thought it was Rune Fest. Okay.
Yes. That's the level of weird stuff that I would love to see the Penguins.
And that's what the Penguins are for. Okay.
Yes.
Some changes to charging items in game. Fine. We'll take it.
Mini menus.
Yeah.
Yes, please.
Okay.
There's a plug-in for this already, so I'm just glad that we're gonna get this.
Yeah. Okay. Fair enough.
The old way will still work, Shane.
Okay. Yeah. I'm just getting flashbacks of Windows 95 with its cascading menus like that. That's all.
Yeah.
The trading card game update from Mod Sarni.
This feels complicated enough that I'm like, this needs its own episode.
Yeah. I mean, the interesting part about this is that we had the game Chronicle before, which very well could have been a mobile game, and it honestly didn't get off the ground. And if Old School can do a card game like this in game and have it work, then this
is not in game. This is not meant to be in game.
Oh, okay. The reason I thought it was in game is that I was looking at this, and the cards and the way they were built kind of looked like an in-game trading card game that Elder Scrolls Online has, called Tales of Trick.
No, I believe this is literally like, physical cards.
Okay. Well, I mean, if they can do this and they can sell it, then we'll pick up a copy and
we'll play it on stream.
Yeah. Or in person one day, if that ever happens.
That would be fun.
Yeah.
Yes.
But that's Game Jam. Your favorite?
Do you even have to ask?
The construction stuff, right?
Of course. That will continue to be my favorite.
Okay, fair enough. For me, bank presets or bingo.
They're good.
So, alrighty. Well, we did mention that it's been a while since we talked about what we've been doing. It's been a busy time. So let's just dive in. I'll let you get started this week since you've had more diversity in your week than I did.
Weeks. I mean, we haven't been doing up our own updates for a while now, given how busy we've been. But yeah, no, I had a business trip like a few weeks back, and when I get back, the motivation just happened, and I started banging out things left and right. So I upgraded my gear. I got 78 magic, so that was an update to the Twilight of the Swamp. I bought myself Eternal Boots thinking, oh, I can wear those now, until I realized earlier today I don't have 75 defense. But that's fine. They're in the bank. They're ready to go. So all of that is good. It's lovely. I queued up my next gear upgrades, but they're getting a little bit more expensive. And we're also getting to the point where, you should really always just invest your money in skills.
Yeah.
Not
see,
in gear.
Like we're a couple tiers, like probably 2-3 tiers below what is best in slot, or one under best in slot for some things. I know particularly Magic. I was looking at that and like, holy crap, I'm almost there. With that. So it then turns into, like you said, skills and stats otherwise on that. And I was honestly surprised how cheap it was relatively to get, the whole suite of 70 to 75-ish Magic gear to use in
yeah, exactly. I thought it was really expensive, but I was looking at the upgraded one, and you don't really need the upgraded ones unless you want a lot of charges.
Yeah. Or if you want to use it one-handed, which, I mean, you really only need if you're going to be fighting dragons with them, right? So
yeah, exactly. So, no, that's been great. Speaking of putting money in skills, I got 80 prayer because I had unlocked augury months ago, but I hadn't actually gotten the prayer level, and I decided once I'm at 77, I might as well go to 80 and get myself that prayer restore bracket, which will pay for itself fairly quickly.
Prayer is a really good investment. Like,
yeah,
I felt the move going from 60 and then going to 70 when I did that, and for the few mil each one of those it was definitely worth it.
Yeah.
So
yeah, exactly. Other than that, I knocked out 65 fletching. My goal is basically to get most of my skills to 70. I kind of want Runecraft and Slayer to dangle at the bottom so that my Tears of Guthix actually goes into those.
Yeah, that's fair.
So fletching was at 60 together with fire making, so that needed to go up. It's a boring grind, but yeah, I have 70 fletching banked as well. And then I started knocking out some achievement diaries because, the quest requirements, skill requirements, we've basically got most of them at this point. So I needed some new goals, and I filled out my to-do list. For people who don't know, I'm actually tracking like almost like Kanban board style of tasks.
Yeah, it's definitely something. I thought I was like, well, how did you set that up? And it's Notion. Okay, wow.
Yeah. So I needed to fill it out with a bunch of new goals, and mostly achievement diaries. I finished the Arduin hard one. Next on the list is probably Lumbridge hard, but we need to do a few more quests for that. But for that, I needed Bones to Peaches. So now that the Mage Training Arena is a little bit less painful, and to be honest, I didn't like doing it, but it also only took me like a few hours. It's really not that bad of a grind. I unlocked Bones to Peaches, knowing that I never have to go back there is great.
Yeah, I guess
that's what actually got me the magic level to get the gear upgrade.
It's still really shocking to me that Mage Training Arena is on the Lumbridge diary rather than the desert one.
Yeah, it's a bit of a weird one. I mean, you could say that, oh, hey, Monster Examine is on like the current one, but at least you're supposed to cast it on a creature in current. The Bones to Peaches for the Lumbridge Diary, you have to cast it in the Alcarid Palace.
Okay, so that explains that, kind of, I think, right?
Well, no, but it's weird because Alcarid is part of the desert. So I don't know what's up with that.
Maybe the definition of desert for the purposes of this is everything south of the Shanty Pass.
I don't think so. Like, I think the Desert Diary has tasks in Alcarit, so like
like the agility
okay,
course.
no, you might
maybe?
be right. You might be right. No, you're right. Okay, yeah, you're right. The Desert Diary basically starts below Shantae Pass. So okay, fair enough. Fair enough.
There's always meaning to the rhyme, isn't there? Meaning to the rhythm or what have you.
And then finally, I was one point removed from easy combat tasks, so I decided to finish the easy combat.
And what do you get when you get those? I haven't really looked into them.
So you get, lamps and you know what? The thing I like a lot is Gommel's Hilt 1 gives you 3 daily teleports to the God Wars dungeon entrance. So that's pretty nice. It also gets you more Warrior Guild tokens from the Warriors Guild, 100% bonus.
Right. We talked about that before.
So it's a really good one if you want to go for the Defender. It gives you an increased chance to receive easy clue scrolls. And it gives you an additional Void Knight commendation point in pest control.
That's a big one, I think.
Yeah, a medium gets you 2 additional ones. So really, medium is where it's at. I think medium combat achievements
and then
is
pest
absolutely
after that.
Yeah. So Gommel's Hill 2, gets you 200% bonus Warrior Guild tokens and 2 additional Void commendation points, as well as no longer being affected by the Prayer Drain effect in Barrows. So for me,
that's a big one. That's a really big one.
It's huge, yeah.
All right, fair enough.
So that's it. I've been busy and I've been having a blast with the game again. So
that's good. That's good. As for me, I, since we last have spoke about this, very much in a similar situation to you. At this point in time, the really last sitting quest requirements that are left to get skill wise are Slayer and rune crafting and fire making. Everything else is pretty much done quest requirement wise, which skill quest requirement wise, which is absolutely absurd. I sat down. And I think I've done all the alking I want to do in this game.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm. I alked from, obviously, when high alk unlocks at 56 all the way to 75. And I think going forward, if I'm going to be training magic, I think I'm going to be using burst spells, if I'm being honest, after just spending that much time sitting there. And, that was of course part of the push for Song of the Elves as well, to unlock the first Trident of the Swamp, to have that available for the quest. So that was done. Alongside that, much like you, I also decided to invest in prayer. I was sitting at 60, and then I thought, well, there's the money, and then there's the money for the gear set aside. We have enough here. We can just go for 70 prayer off the bat. And like you said, at this mid-level, especially with how the protection prayers work in old school, the more prayer points you have, the better, right? So
yeah, I love the fact that I can now. I mean, even with 70 prayer, I could already do this because my gear was amped up enough. I could finish a Hespori kill without needing a prayer potion.
Wow, that's pretty good. Okay.
Yeah.
I have the Hespori seeds, but I've never actually killed it here because I did it on leagues, and I was like, okay, that's all fun. I don't need to,
Why? The Anima seeds are so good.
I know.
Anima seeds, they multiply your farm run like free farm run money, because let's be honest, your herb runs are basically printing money. And with the Anima seeds, they print more money.
I guess I need to go and do that. I have a stack of, I don't know how many Hespori seeds I have sitting.
I know. I don't do Hespori often enough either, because it's like, I need to get in my gear for like a 1.5 minute fight at this point.
Yeah.
But
Um,
And the bottomless bucket has gone up in price.
yeah,
So
I bought mine
if
at
you get luck,
300K.
yeah, and it's like a mil now. So if you get that drop, that's a free mil. And it's like it's not even that rare of a drop.
No, it's not.
It's like 1 in 64, 1 in 32. Let me double check. 1 in 35.
Nice.
So if you do Hespori like twice a week, then that means every like 18 weeks, so like 3 times a year, you have a free mil. Okay, that's not a lot.
No,
But
it's not.
hey, hey,
No. But one thing that
you can get the farming pet from Hespori.
I know. It's just I just wanted to focus on like the core things to make sure that I was going to be able to not struggle
Okay.
through quest bosses, which obviously we got Song of the Elves going on right now after the show and a bit, but also with that Gothic Sleep's coming up. But I've been talking a lot about the magic and the prayer and the combat side of it. One thing I want to talk about quest requirement wise, and I think this will be the last thing before I go through my gear upgrades, is that the mushroom woodcutting on Fossil Island is a direct upgrade or rather from the teaks if you are not wanting to tick manipulation. And I was thinking it was going to be complex going into it and I was going to be getting hurt through it, but the reality is it's not too bad. And I was 70 woodcutting in no time from being initially 65. So I really appreciated that method of woodcutting out there for that. So, and that's I think the good diversity amongst these certain skills, gathering skills that we have in old school is that it might feel as though it's got this weird obtuse old training method to it, but then you completely change gears for a bit, head to Fossil Island, and you got something relatively new in air quotes on that. So, but gear upgrades. I'm presently sitting at the best power armor I can get for melee without having a fighter's torso or bandos. I'm not going to talk about the fighter's torso today. And the only gear I have not upgraded is ranged. Because I figure let's just blast dragon hide and a dragon crossbow at this point, right? Or crystal bow.
Toxic blowpipe.
I don't have 75 ranged for that.
Okay. Yeah, Blessed Dragonhide is good. The dragon crossbow is not worth it. You're better off using the hunter's crossbow.
Oh, okay.
And then use moonlight
right.
I think somebody commented that on a video.
Yes, that's it. That was in the comments a while back.
That's the one you want to go for.
Yeah, fair enough.
Or crystal bow at this point for you, though. At that point, you kind of would want to get crystal armor.
Yeah, which will be soon, if I was going to go that way. And then magic wise, I feel like magic's in a really good spot now post Project Rebalance.
Yeah,
dare I say it?
No,
with all the boosts and Death of the Occult Necklace is horribly exaggerated.
I am eyeing Virtus.
Yeah, that makes sense, and that's what I was saying is that we're getting so close to being just at or under that best in slot tier for Magic, and it's like holy crap, we're gonna actually be able to do stuff.
To me, that's been the trend with like you're talking about the gear, but like same with Song of the Elves today. When we started, the entire goal of like getting 70 in all of these skills, like even like a few months ago, and we're like, okay, let's start focusing on Song of the Elves, right? Like start getting the requirements. It felt so unsurmountable.
Really?
Yeah. Well, not unsurmountable, but it felt like there's gonna be some long grinds, right? Like,
I honestly didn't think that, and you know what? I think I didn't. It's because I'm dreading going to almost level 70 Slayer. I think that's what made everything else easy for me.
I'm at 67 Slayer, so I'm getting up there.
Yeah, I'm 57. Like, what was your hardest 70 grind skill wise? And then we'll do our questing update.
What was the hardest 70 grind? Um, Crafting was a tough one.
Really?
Yeah. Largely because I couldn't really find like a great method of doing it. So
Mine was
crafting
mining.
was mining. I did that over like a week where I had a lot of AFK time at work.
Okay.
So
Okay.
yeah.
Okay. Fair enough. Fair enough. But I think it's just because that Slayer one's sitting there, and that's what's just made things feel
True,
like
that's
that for
fair
me.
enough, but even that for me like is getting to the point where, it's two levels. Two levels to get like all of the quest requirements. And then sure, there's way more Slayer to be done after that, but it's a little bit less problematic though, like thinking about it, like you need a pretty high Slayer level for the diary cape.
Yeah.
So look, I'm dreading that, but like the goals I'm dreading right now, though still thinking it will be possible, like back when I was looking at the Song of the Elves requirements, like level 90 in skills would be like, well, like that's never gonna happen. So I find it interesting how the goalposts move so much and how different goals become differently sized
Yeah.
as
And
yeah.
it's like for me when I go for 99s, and I felt this on leagues, so I know it's going to be true for OS, but on RS3 and leagues, when I got 99s, I always felt that the toughest level in going for a 99 wasn't the 98 to 99. It was 97 to 98.
Yeah, I see what you mean. Yeah. I see what you mean.
Anyways, quests. We had Path of Glovefree, and we had a couple other smaller ones along the way too, like Wanted and Devious Minds, which they're good quests on their own. I love the fact there was a bomb in Devious Minds that you forgot about, but I remembered.
Mm-hmm.
But Path of Glovefree, the backported quest, came out in 2023. Missed being an old school by like I think a few weeks. I enjoyed this. It was always good to have the gnomes, right?
Yeah, I think they did really well on the general quality of life improvements on that quest.
Yeah.
Like it didn't feel clunky. I think it didn't feel like a 2007 quest. Basically,
No, it did
it
not.
definitely felt more modern than that. So I think they did a good job at mixing the two things there.
Yeah, I like the change machine too.
Yeah.
Fun fact: I was able to mess up Quest Helper on this. I wanted to see if Quest Helper could do the change, and the Quest Helper was not able to figure out the change puzzle based on what I had. So it fell to good old fashioned pen and paper, which is how I did the first one and how I was going to do this. But I just wanted to see, knowing it was more complex, if it could do it, and it choked up. I don't know if it usually chokes up, but it did when I used it. So
I got really lucky. I had like a really easy one. I had like one and like a really low number, odd low number. So for me, it was super easy.
Yeah, I know by the end of mine, I think my inventory was pretty much just filled with change. But
yeah.
And then comes Morning's End Part 2. We were thinking this was going to be a big problem, wasn't it? But it wasn't nearly as problematic, I don't think.
No, I agree. I'm gonna ask, like, you wanted to do all of the elf quests in reasonable close succession. Do you think we achieved in that? Like, do you feel you got sort of a good overall story?
Yeah, because I feel like Underground Pass was probably like a month and a half ago at this point.
Oh, no, longer.
Yeah, but it's easily memorable. And then we just went in very quick succession: Regicide, Morning's End Part 1, Morning's End Part 2. And I think what I wanted...
Roving Elves.
Roving Elves, right. And I think what I wanted was just the ability to kind of experience it in quick succession story-wise, not having to wait, a decade in between. And I feel like... yeah, I know. And I feel like that was a good level of immersion associated with that. And I feel like we're kind of ending up in the same spot, just generally so far from what we're seeing lore-wise.
Yeah. you haven't and I think at this point we should give the audience a little bit of a spoiler warning. We might be starting to talk spoilers of um Song of the Elves and the other elf quests if you haven't done them yet.
Yeah.
Proceed at your own risk.
I just want to say,
nothing really new lore wise comes in after the fight you haven't done yet. So you've basically got like 99%.
Yeah, I just want to say one more thing on Morning's End Part 2 before we go to Song of the Elves. And that's that I asked you when we were going into this, I said easy mode, normal mode, or hard mode.
Yes.
And, of course, easy mode would have been quest helper, normal mode would have been a guide, and hard mode would have been no guide. And we opted for normal mode.
Yeah.
I think that was the smart move, and we had it done in about 90 minutes or so.
Yeah, I think the problem with Morning's End Part 2, I don't think the puzzle is bad. I think it's really well designed, actually. It's just annoying. The shadows, the agility shortcut, it's just unnecessarily annoying.
Yeah. And, having higher level, having decent prayer bonuses and whatnot, and just knowing the systems around it, I think helped, because going in, when I first did this back when, old school was RS2, I did it on launch day. I was trying to write a guide at the same time, and I had no idea what was going on with prayer bonuses and whatnot in terms of the system. So I think leaning into all that and the guide just made it a much more smooth experience. So we went, of course, normal mode on that one, and, light puzzle designed when Mod Mark was under a bender, and that kind of takes us on to Song of the Elves. And, you mentioned we're going to be spoilers here with this, and I think the best thing for us to do is to just look at this quest. And I think the first thing I want to pick up on is that what you said when we were doing this is that, this could be two quests, inciting the insurrection, and then watching the king be deposed, and then the entire other half of it, or I guess maybe 4/5 of it, not half, takes place in the Elven lands. That was the first thing that stood out.
It really stood out to me. I think it would have made for a good cliffhanger as well. Like you meet Lord Iorwerth and they give you this new piece of information that no, it's not Zamorak we're freeing, it's Saren.
Yeah.
Dun dun dun.
Yeah, and to
be
fair, they had to do that,
right?
They had to do that because back in the day, it was thought that the Dark Lord was Zamorak, and that's what they were going for when they built the quest. But with recent lore and all that, we know that that's not how Saren
it fits just
conducts
fine.
herself.
I don't think it feels out of place. Like it's believable.
It's
right?
it's how the people in world would interpret it, right?
Exactly. Yeah.
Yeah.
And then I feel like that's sort of like chapter 1 of the quest, and I think chapter 2 is the longest one, and it's the one where you both get all the leaders and you have the library section.
Yep.
And then I think
I was wondering. I just want to say on the leaders bit, I was wondering if we were going to find a way to bring backstory in, because that is a central part of the RS3 one, because they have the Light Within prior to Plague's End, and of course we did that as well here.
No. Backstory doesn't get in before Plague's End in RS3, I believe, because you have Within the Light, which is
right. It's
library,
after the fact,
and you find the entrance into Prith.
Yes, right. Okay.
And then you have Plague's End, and then once you are in Prith, you get access to a new quest, The Light Within, and that, I think,
that's the backstory bit.
That's the backstory and backstory.
Right. So am I misremembering then that there was no backstory bit in RS3's Plague's End?
Correct.
Okay. So I'm just kind of merging. Yeah. I'm merging a combination of Plague's End, Song of the Elves, and The Light Within into one.
Yeah, okay. I think so. I mean, I can double. It's really easy to check. We just Plague's End, and we search for backstory.
Yeah, I think you're right though.
Yeah, no, there's one reference which is no,
Yeah.
he doesn't come up there.
Yeah, but I think in terms of pulling the clan leaders together, I feel like that was, you read into what they're all about, and you can make inferences on that, and do similar things like the exoskeleton and whatnot, as well, for Traherne. So you sum all these things together, you get to a point, I think, where we just go into the library now on this, unless there's anything you want to talk about in terms of gathering the folks together.
No, I mean, I think, like, I've been mulling it over in my head. Like, in a sense, I almost feel that, like, the leaders, it felt a little bit weird dotted out throughout the quest at the same time. If you had to get all of the 8 leaders in a row, that might have gotten old as well. So
Yeah,
I'm a little bit mixed on that.
because you
It felt a
find
little bit artificial as well. Like, oh yeah, I had deciphered 2 more clues. That's
right,
convenient, right? Like,
because it's Cruis, Heffin, and Ithil and Melior that happen after the library.
yeah, exactly. I mean, I understand the Grandmaster quest, but I would almost have liked to seen this as more of a like smaller series of quests. But
And
like, what do you think? What do you think the balance? Like, why would you choose to merge quests or split them? What do you think the reasons behind that is for like a designer or a writer?
I honestly think it comes down to the community, in terms of everybody who plays old school, I think, has the memory of While Gothic Sleeps back in the day and other Grandmaster quests that followed, and they wanted something similar of that vein. And I think that's why the players want it that way. And they also want the challenge associated with that and the world hopping that it brings. But I think the reason it makes sense for Jagex to do these things like this is that if you're able to, have a cohesive design behind it, which this clearly does, you're able to put one JMod or one team of JMods on it and knock it out in one go. Whereas if you were to split it up, there's no guarantee you're going to be able to get that same team and have that same feel throughout that quest. Now, of course, in the modern day, you can have, Jagex storytelling, and you can have the story, be relatively consistent, but every quest is going to have its own certain feel to it based on the devs who write that. Because you remember, at Jagex, they're not just content devs, they're also working on the story and the general feel of the content.
Yeah, I'm just like, I don't know if the quest needed to be this long to be Grandmaster. Like, to give you an example, and this is actually a quest I would love to see in old school. Nomad's Requiem, for example, very famous Grandmaster quest, but very self-contained and actually not that long. And it's
the boss fight.
It's the boss fight, and it's the like, it feels like a showdown, right? Like, it has this build up and it has this climax.
Yeah.
They could have done something similar. Like, imagine if, they had put in like another. Let me try. I'm trying to find like a good checkpoint. Putting it after the battle for Letia will probably make the finale too short.
Yeah.
Because after that,
because
you really
then it's just 2 fights.
Yeah, I don't know.
Right, and see, it's like, where do you find that?
And then you have to break up the leaders at that point, and you kind of, okay.
But maybe it could just be the boss fights at the end. Because I'm just looking at the list of RS3 Grandmaster quests, and they have Alpha versus Omega, which is basically just a fight against Raziel for the Necromancy story arc.
Yeah, but RS3 has moved in a very different direction. I don't think you can compare modern day Grandmaster quests in RS3 with, While Gothic Sleeps. So.
Well, you can for pretty much everything except for Alpha versus Omega, I think.
Maybe. So,
but let's talk about that library and then the boss fights briefly, and then we'll tee it up with that. The library, yeah, first couple light puzzles, no problem, no guide needed, right?
Yeah, no, I tried solving it myself. Yeah.
And if we would have been there, we would have still been in there if we did no guide for the latter half of these puzzles.
Yeah, look, I love the place more than the Temple of Light. It's bigger, and more grand, and there's no shadows. I was like, oh, why these agility shortcuts? Do you have to? We survived. It felt a little bit like they were put in there for the memes, to be honest. But sure. Um, I I would have liked. I understand the grandeur necessary, but especially with the mobility problems that old school has, it felt very punishing if you would make a mistake and you have to navigate the entire library to go around.
Yeah. Yeah.
Like what would have been interesting for me, right, is if they had basically put for like each of the little rooms like a central place where you can sort of control all of the mirrors in that area.
Oh, that would have been neat.
Like some quality of life like that would have made me much more likely to try and sort it out myself. Now it's really like I kind of have to explore the whole library, make a copy of it on paper, and then
Yeah.
solve it on paper before
Yeah.
putting everything in.
Right. And also, it's not only 2D, it's 3D with 3 levels here. So.
Exactly. Or like in the center, like a way to sort of like scry in the different rooms so that you can see the layout without having to run. Like just some kind of updates there. But other than that, the music was good. It looked great. I liked the lore. It was an improvement over the Temple of Light puzzle in both how difficult and rewarding it was, as well as the grandeur and the scale of it.
Yeah, I'll agree with that. And I think the thing that was also very good about this is that this was the old school introduction to Saren and exactly what happened with the curse, let's just say. And how it was designed to, in effect, break the elves away from her. But oh no, instead, it's created this other thing, the Dark Lord, that was misinterpreted and, caused so much division amongst the elves and whatnot. And we learn exactly what's going on inside this puzzle. And then we have to, of course, report back to the elves. And there's a little bit of, suspension of disbelief in that they think that, why should we believe you in terms of what you're saying? But over time, they do believe you for it. So.
I got more Saren lore out of this than I ever got out of Plague's End and Within the Light to a lesser extent.
Yeah, that's fair.
I really like the way they told the story. Like it's small bits, but like Saren as a character felt. I mean, relatable was maybe a big word, but you could.
She's not the genocidal mother she was in RS3.
I mean, she wasn't like, but like let's not talk about 6th Age stuff, okay? Let's not talk about any of the 6th Age stuff.
This is much more down to earth, isn't it?
Yeah, but even like Plague's End, didn't really have all of that, 6th Age stuff built in, right? Like that was still relatively close to the Laura's here, but like it didn't connect to me in the same way, and I think they did a good job here, like treading the balance.
Yeah. I would play this quest again already.
Oh yeah, like look, I'm generally thinking like by the time my hardcore Iron Man finally gets around to this quest, oh my god, I don't want to think about it. But when it comes around to doing this quest, oh god, it's gonna die, isn't it? I'm just thinking it can never die and get to this point. How I got so close to death like 2 or 3 times during this. Now, anyway, I might do it without a guide, but like what I really enjoyed about this quest is it felt reasonably believable, right? Like the timeline of the insurrection in West and East Adoin, yeah, it was condensed, right? But that's how it goes. And I loved that the elves weren't presented as a unified front. I like that there were factions. I like that there were personal motivations and that all of them were believable and that led to interesting dialogue. I loved the exploration of King Baxtorian. I loved the exploration of Arianwind. I loved the exploration of the name of the elf. I forgot, the one that hates you.
The one with the weird name.
The one with the weird name, exactly. They all added something to the quest.
Not Esselet?
No, Yag. There's a Y and a G in the name. That's Yagi. I'm gonna call the guy Yagi. He dies in the quest.
Ysagwin.
Ysagwin. There you go.
Or however you're gonna say that.
I like it. To me, these are some of the best written characters I have seen in all of the old school quests so far. Like, they're characters. They're not NPC. They're characters.
Yeah. Yeah.
Even Alina, despite her very obvious questions of how do you feel about the current situation, felt like a character in this.
And this goes to something that we discussed briefly as we were doing this. Obviously, Morning's End Part 2 and whatnot was before the break and before Old School was a thing, and this was a very modern quest, Song of the Elves. And we were saying this feels like a modern quest, as though it was taking cues from how RS3 did quest, but also, of course, keeping everything true to Old School. I think that was a very interesting thing that you picked up on. I didn't see that before that, but especially now in our discussions of it, I think that's why it's resonating the way it is because these characters are so vivid and vibrant.
Exactly. I want to keep going in this quest because, I'm for the first time ever, and that includes all the RS3 quests, I feel the plight of the rebels. I feel the hurt in Baxtorian. Oh my god, I forgot the name of the guy. Baxtorian, right? Like, I feel it. Like, for the first time in forever, and love it. Yeah. Absolutely love it.
Good. And the boss fight. Obviously, I don't think we need to talk too much about the boss fight, the first one involving what was that, Esselet? Yeah. On
Esselt,
that. Yeah, Esselt. How did you do with your prayer switching on there?
That took me a while to get right. It's definitely not very forgiving.
Okay. And that was the part that shocked me, is that I actually did okay at the prayer switching. The only time it got a little bit.
If you can do that, then you can do Jat.
I know, and that's the shocking thing, because the only time it got a little bit hairy is when I moved away from that the menu to use the restore to restore the stats that I was taken down on. So
no, it worked well.
Just beat him with a Gutted spear.
You like the Arianwen fight was actually a tricky one as well.
Yeah.
You struggled with that one.
Because I didn't know that the orange arrows were explosive.
Yeah. That was not telegraphed very well.
No, it wasn't. It was not. And I'll let you explain the Dark Lord Facet of Saren fight, because that's what I still have to do.
Yeah, I mean, I have to be honest. I was scared shitless for this fight, so I looked up a bunch of stuff about it beforehand. I looked at a video.
And see, I went in completely blind. I just was going based off of what you told me, so I guess that's why I didn't make it through the first run.
No, exactly. I did go in and wanted to go in prepared, especially as you experience. It's a pain to get back there.
Yeah, for people unaware, to get back to the Facet of Saren fight, you have to go through the top portion of the underground pass.
Yeah. But yeah, anyway, the fight itself is fairly straightforward. It's very mage based. There's some special attacks that you have to avoid, but all in all, it
can be done with 75 magic and 70 defense and 72 HP.
I believe so. I had plenty of resources left over. I'm pretty sure it can be done. I I liked the fight. Like once I got through the first cycle, um,
Do you know if
I
is the
felt
fragment
these.
available in Nightmare Zone?
No, but you can redo the fight by interacting with like the Memoriam Crystal in Prif.
Oh, does it drop anything?
No, I don't believe so.
Okay. So it's just kind of if you want to go back and experience it.
Yeah, yeah. But yeah, no, I thought it was a fun fight. Overall, when I started getting a little bit comfortable about it. It's going through the motions. It's a fairly. It became a little bit of a keep paying attention. You don't want to lose attention. You need to
Yeah.
you need to remain sharp, but um, yeah, like the fight sort of falls into a rhythm, and yeah, I was ecstatic when I finished it though.
Yeah, it's approaching midnight where he is, and you can tell from the energy that's still there. So
yeah.
I will hopefully have that before next week's podcast, and it's a simple thing. It's just mind over matter for that. But this is, as I mentioned at the top of the show, one of the big things that we've been working towards and the lore associated with it. It's again, it feels like a culmination of exactly what it felt like to get the announcement that Prif was coming for the first time, and now we get to experience that again for the second time. And I think that, going back to when this whole old school questing adventure started, I think that was what sold me to do it. And as soon as Song of the Elves was announced at that Rune Fest, I think it was the Rune Fest we were at too, that I was at.
Might have been.
Yeah,
I know Warding was the thing they announced, but they might have announced Song of the Elves as well.
Yeah, it was announced at Rune Fest 2018, released on July 25th, 2019. So, almost out for 5 years, and I knew as soon as that was announced and it was happening that I was going to have to do this eventually, and lo and behold, here we are. But that pretty much brings us to the end here. Hopefully you guys have enjoyed hearing about your favorite mid-level RuneScape players, thumbing through quests, Path of Glory,
finishing their first Grandmaster quest
to Morning's End Part 2,
days before a new Grandmaster quest comes into the game,
to Song of the Elves, to While Gothic Sleeps.
Yeah.
A string of Grandmaster quests here
yes.
at the OSRS update. But I think I'm content to leave it there for this week. Of course, if people have any questions or comments or thoughts about our adventuring here, or if I'm somehow struggling by the time this is up, please don't hesitate to leave those on YouTube as well.
And tell us, I mean, besides While Gothic Sleep, tell us which Grandmaster quest we should be doing next and why.
Okay, that's good. I like that.
I'm curious to hear opinions. Yeah. I have my own thoughts, but I'm gonna,
Yeah,
I've been wrong before.
You want it to be Dragon Slayer 2.
Yes, tell me why the next Grandmaster quest we should do, what the Grandmaster... Tell us what the next Grandmaster quest we should do is, and why it is Dragon Slayer 2. Yes.
Fair enough. And if you guys want the podcast delivered automatically to you, subscribe. Update. No, that's not the URL. Update.show/OS is the URL, and you can just click on any of the buttons for your favorite podcast listener out there. Apple, Spotify, Pocket Cast, and of course YouTube as well at youtube.com/@OSRSupdate. Do leave us a like and subscribe. Greatly helps the channel out. I know that's a cliche thing to say. Everybody says that, but it really does. We appreciate you guys, and we'll be back next week for While Gothic Sleeps, Grandmaster ×2. See you then, everyone. Take care.
Bye.